Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Chris Smitherman behind the scenes producing, Tom Pollen. I'm Dave Holcomb. Training camp has begun. Players are on the field. Players are talking to the media. We're getting quotes regularly again. So it's a really exciting time for football fans with the season, really kind of just around the corner.
Yeah, 3 days into training camp and everybody's a star. I can't believe we got this guy with the 11th pick in the draft, and it's amazing that 50 teams passed on this guy. But we've managed to get. He's going to take this team onto his back and carry us to a champ. It's happening all over the league.
Right.
It's there.
There's sleepers everywhere. Everybody got sleepers.
You got training camp heroes all over the place.
I like that. Training camp heroes.
Yeah.
I was a gym hero in high school, so I'm all about being, an important hero.
I was never an athletic hero. I don't think I was a hero of anything.
So we've got a really fun show today. We're going to talk some Atlanta Falcons training camp. One quote in particular caught my eye from Arthur Smith. So we're going to talk about what he had to say about the Falcons and their expectations going into this season. He pushed back on the idea that the expectations should be low for the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But we're going to lead off with eventually get to some NFL Plus discussion, some another streaming service that you guys should know about, the ever-ending streaming wars. We'll talk about that today. But we're going to start with Kyler Murray. The Arizona quarterback got a new contract. It was a big one. We were kind of waiting for this to drop all off season. We were wondering, is he going to get that big contract before the season starts, or do the Cardinals not believe in him after that really kind of putrid performance against the Los Angeles Rams in his first playoff appearance? But he gets this major contract, the one that, was kind of expected, or we were waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But it comes with a unusual clause in it, and that's where we're going to start today. But I want to mention our sponsor first. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app Prize Picks, and it's real easy to get started. Download it in your Apple or Google Play store. Use our promo code ASU to get started, and that promo code supports us, and it gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. And you'll get to use that, first deposit to place some entries on some, upcoming NFL matchups in week 1, week 2 in September, and you can place some baseball entries as well in the meantime.
You sure can. So, we're heading into pennant races, trade deadlines coming up. We'll see what kind of moves everybody makes, and I know here in Chicago we're getting ready to be disappointed again that we're going to have a couple of stars traded, but what can we say? It's the Cubs, and even though they're a big market team, they act like they're on a tight budget, and they can't afford all these big stars, even though they added about 500 new revenue streams since the Ricketts took over the Cubs. So, but other than that, that's baseball. I mean,
well, I was going to say,
you don't want to hear me griping about baseball all day, do you?
I was going to say it's kind of
anybody? Come on. You want to hear me gripe about baseball?
It's a sickness around the league that not enough teams, or too many teams in big markets, are saying, "Oh, we can't afford anybody." I don't really understand why the Washington Nationals don't pony up for Juan Soto. They also seem to me, as an outsider, I know Soto wants a giant contract, but at the same time, one of the best players in the league, and you're in a major market. I don't really like, if the Nationals can't afford their best player, how can the Pirates or the Royals or the Rays ever hope to keep a guy even close to as talented as Soto? To me, it's a big problem for the league.
It really is. And the teams that line up for Soto, of course, you're hearing of the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, all the usual players.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous that, other teams that actually have these revenues, like the Cubs, which, they're not even on free TV anymore. They are on a pay-per-view network. You've got to pay to watch them. You don't get them on free TV like you used to, or like I used to when I was growing up. The Cubs were always around. They were always there. That's why they became so big in Chicago. And the White Sox kind of took a back seat. It's because the Cubs were always on. So, and they were on WGN, which was huge. So I don't get it. How you can do all this and call yourself, we just can't afford all of this now that it all comes down to this luxury tax that MLB has enacted that they negotiated with the players. And they call it a luxury tax. It's actually a salary cap. They were really sneaky about it. It's a salary cap, what they've done to major league players. And so, nobody wants to go over and hit that luxury tax and have to pay into that luxury tax. So that's part of the reason why you have all these teams crying poor mouth. But you got teams like the Cubs with no stars at all anymore, or teams like the Nationals, which is Juan Soto, and they're refusing to put out for him. It just, I don't understand it. It frustrates me when I see a team that obviously is not willing to take the steps that they need to take to win. It happens in football too. It's
not as common.
No, but it gets to be very frustrating, and it's frustrating to be a fan of these teams.
Yeah.
So, hell, the Braves are a player in a lot of these talks now. I mean, they're trying to land.
Braves, they're not in the Juan Soto discussion, but
No.
they keep well. They won like last night after a couple losses in Philly. They're now 3 games back on the Mets. The Mets have had a good week. They've played well since the All-Star break, so they've lost a couple games in the NL East since the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But the Braves are right there, top of the wild card, and I know the Brave fans are very excited for the last 2 months of the season.
And they should be. This is how Cub fans were feeling, for a while when, with Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, you had Jake Arrieta, you had all these guys, led them to the 2016 World Series win. Hell, come August, September, you were very excited. You wanted the playoffs coming. You were ready for it. So, Braves fans should be excited. It's a fun time of year if your team is committed to competing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are just too many teams right now that are not committed to competing and being a part of the playoff conversation, being a part of the World Series conversation.
Yeah. I'm actually seeing the Cubs this weekend. I'm out in San Francisco.
Oh, hey.
Very exciting game Thursday. Cubs did not play so well, but Alex had a no-hitter going to the 7th inning.
Yeah,
that was
Alex Wood had a hell of a game, right?
Yeah, and the Giants ended up winning 4-2. So, and I'm here with some of my groomsmen for like a delayed bachelor weekend kind of thing. So we're going to the game again tonight.
Cool, that's great.
Yeah,
should be fun.
We'll see your Cubs.
And,
a team that the Braves are competing for a wild card spot, I guess. The Giants, they've fallen off a bit since the All-Star break, but they're still alive for a playoff spot.
Well, we'll see who ends up picking up Wilson Contreras, the Cubs catcher.
Yeah.
And their reliever, Dave Robertson, has done a hell of a job this year. And Ian Happ. So the Cubs got 3 guys who you could actually start building a team around, but are going to end up getting traded. And, we'll be back to where we were last year. So
The Cubs
I
had
enjoy watching the Cubs lose because they're going to get their asses kicked.
the Cubs had 3 or 4 hits on Thursday. Ian Happ had half of them. He had 2. So
right.
yeah, he's I think he'll be coveted at the trade deadline next week.
Yeah, he is. So
But let's talk some Kyler Murray.
right.
He got a contract.
Let's get back on track.
5-year deal, which I think is pretty standard, for a quarterback deal following your big rookie contract. Included in that deal was $160 million guaranteed. If he gets the full amount, it's a $230.5 million contract extension. But I teased the unusual clause in this contract at the start of the show. If you haven't heard about this yet, the unusual clause in that contract is that he has to do 4 hours per week of independent film study outside of team preparation. And according to The Athletic, the contract also stated that while watching film, Murray could not be engaged in other activities such as watching television or playing video games.
Yeah, I know.
That was, according to The Athletic, that was included in the contract. So this very specific request in this deal that really, I think, reflects very poorly on Kyler Murray and his preparation in the NFL. And to kind of, I want to react to that, but to just finish the story from this week, Kyler Murray scheduled appeared in a unscheduled press conference that he then scheduled. I was trying to find a different word. He appeared in an unscheduled press conference on Thursday to talk about the criticism that he's been receiving because of this contract. And since that press conference where he was critical of the people being critical of him, the Cardinals have removed this clause from his contract, but that hasn't stopped just the ridicule online of not only Murray, but the Arizona Cardinals of how they've handled the situation with removing the clause, feeling like they needed the clause to start with. And it's just kind of a mess right now with Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And, maybe a year from now, it's a 5-year contract. Maybe a year from now, he goes out this season and he leads them to a playoff spot. Maybe they win their first playoff game with him at quarterback and everything's all good. And we forget about this in 4 or 5 months. But right now, I think their relationship is on very rocky ground. And if they don't win a playoff game or if they have a disappointing season, I mean, this could really put a big, what's the word? Canyon, I guess, between team and player in terms of building a coexisting relationship.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim were not the ones behind this clause. It was Mike Bidwell who was the one who was behind, putting this clause in the contract. And which, again, we don't know what his practice habits are, what his
where did you read about Bidwell being the guy behind it?
Pro Football Talk.
Pro Football Talk, okay.
Yeah, they've done a series of articles on it. And in one of those articles, I read that, and Mike Florio's been writing about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he came out with the talk that with the kind of news that Bidwell's the one who actually pushed for this clause, that this was not something that Steve Keim or Cliff Kingsbury was looking to put into the contract. So, but of course, I mean,
so has Mike Florio talked at all about Bidwell? Why was Bidwell concerned about Kyler Murray's game preparation? Like, why?
He didn't talk about it in specifics as far as why.
Okay.
I think if you look at his team's performance over the last couple of years, last season they fell apart. They fell apart going into the final part of the second half of the season was terrible.
Right.
And
the year before they were 5-0 and they finished, I think, 8-8. So
right.
it's their record in November and December games the last two seasons. Don't have it exactly in front of me, but it's poor. It's a really bad,
terrible.
Yeah.
Because they opened the season 7-0 last year.
Yeah.
So, and finished 4-6. So, you can look at that and say, well, maybe Kyler Murray isn't as prepared. I don't know. I don't see it because he led that team to a 7-0 record to start the season, beat some pretty good teams. So, as I said, he didn't come up with a reason for why Bidwell would put that in. But this kind of goes back, and I know we're going to talk to Julio Jones later, but it kind of goes back to this Julio Jones, this respect thing, and the fact that the Cardinals don't respect me because they don't feel like I'm prepared for games, or they don't, I know Julio Jones is upset that they don't think he's doing what he needs to do to be a winning NFL quarterback. And, as I say, we're not in the room with him every week preparing for a game, but obviously Cliff Kingsbury's been very happy with him because he's been, behind his quarterback. He defends Murray. Murray is his guy, and, he likes, having Murray as his quarterback. So it's a rough one because now, yes, you do have that disrespect, or Kyler Murray saying, well, disrespect. And now, what's going to happen as things go forward. And,
well, what I find so interesting though, is Kyler Murray got up on Thursday and was talking about the disrespect from the media that he was receiving in terms of people are now saying that I don't study well.
Yes.
Well, I've never heard of any quarterback having this clause in his contract ever.
Neither have I. No.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been such a big story in the media.
Right. That's why this is a big deal. Why does your team not trust you? And why? Don't get mad at the media. The media is not even reading between the lines. Like, this is very obvious.
Yeah.
Your team doesn't trust you to study on your own. They even put in specifically that you can't play video games while you study. That to me, that means that's something that you do. That is something that you do regularly that they know you do, and they don't want you to do that anymore. You can't play video games while you're studying film.
Right.
So it was very odd.
Why are you paying them that much money if he's not doing his study?
Right. Yeah. So I found it very odd that Murray got up and was criticizing the people in the media when it's like, why aren't you more mad at your team? They are the ones that really disrespected you. And then the other question I have is, if you felt so disrespected by this contract, why did you accept it?
Sign it.
Why did you sign it? I get that you got $160 million guaranteed coming your way in the next couple of years, and that's probably the easy solution. But why you did sign it? But if you got to be happy with the whole contract though, and understand that this probably was going to get out at some point, that this was included in the deal. Did he not read the whole contract? Did he not see this clause?
Well, sometimes you trust your agent to do what is in your best interest. And, it's possible his agent kind of fell down on this one and didn't. This is why you have agents to negotiate contracts. These are complex, documents.
Well, and that's a problem that a different quarterback has right now, and playing for a different bird team. But
yes, it is.
Good afternoon, Tony Wright. He seems to be chalking up the Murray stuff to immaturity, which, I think that's part of the issue. I think the Cardinals are a huge part of the issue as well, with putting in this this clause, but I don't think Murray handled it very well on Thursday, to be honest. And you know, the thing that really got me about what Murray had to say on Thursday, I'm going to read one of his quotes here, again from The Athletic. He says, to those of you that out there that believe that I could be standing in front of you all without having a work ethic or preparing, I'm honored that you think that, but it doesn't exist. It's not possible. I'm not 6'7", 230 pounds. I don't throw the ball 85 yards. I'm already behind the 8-ball, and I can't afford to take shortcuts. No pun intended. He's referring to his own height.
Yeah.
And it's just, he seems like he's very self-aware about his criticisms. And then he used his physical, the criticisms he's been hearing about his height for years, he then used to turn around and try to prove to us that he studies, which I found very odd because, dude, you've got a lot of natural talent. You were the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. You was a first-round pick in the MLB draft. So I'm not saying he doesn't prepare. I'm not saying he doesn't game study without playing video games at the same time. I don't want to start those rumors, but don't get up in front of me and insult my intelligence and say you don't have any God-given talent, that you were a 6th-round pick and you're the next Tom Brady working your way up in the league. You were the number 1 overall pick. Right. You were believed in from the start that you were the most athletic, talented guy in your draft, and you're one of the most athletic, talented quarterbacks in the league right now. So,
and the thing is,
he's not hardworking. Doesn't mean he doesn't play film,
right?
But he has a lot of natural talent, and don't tell me that you don't get by a little bit with your natural talent. Oh
yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats for the last couple of years, Kyler Murray's in the top 10 as far as passing accuracy, and in a lot of advanced passing stats. He's up there with a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, this guy has a lot of talent. I'm sorry, my throat is just dry today. But you look at Murray, he kind of did this to himself a little bit because there was an interview a few months ago where he talked about the fact that he doesn't study as much as other quarterbacks or
yeah, he did say that. You're right.
Yeah. So, you know, and that, but he says he has the skills to be able to watch film once. And going back to it, you know, everybody used to talk about Jim McMahon back in, you know, the 80s Bears, the fact that he didn't study much film. Well, McMahon only had to study film once, and he knew everything about an opponent. And you're looking at Kyler Murray, he might just be that way. He has the ability to watch film, you know, watch through game film, see what he needs to see, and be able to go out and execute after, you know, after he watches film. So it's some guys are different. Some guys have to study film, you know, 20 hours a day to be able to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Some guys can actually look at film, see the patterns, see the things that they need to see, and go out. Murray claimed that that's the kind of quarterback he is. And I don't know if that sat well with Bidwell. That might be why Bidwell said, well, you need to be studying more. And he might have used the playoff game against the Rams last year as his criteria for saying that.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't just throw that clause in there and to a quarterback who's actually played fairly well for you. Yeah. I mean, the team has had a couple bad second halves, but is that Kingsbury? Is that defensive coordinators catching up with your offense? He was without DeAndre Hopkins for a long time last year.
Well, and Murray got hurt.
Yeah.
I think he got hurt in both seasons. So he played through it in 2020, but then last year he missed some games. We just assume when guys come back that they're 100% healthy. That's not always the case. I mean, some guys come back and they look like they haven't missed a game. And then some guys are healthy when they come back and they're just rusty. And other guys come back and they're still hurt. to be
Right.
honest. And I think that's what it looked like to me with Murray. I can't say for sure, but
It could be. Yeah.
to me, it looked like he was not healthy because he wasn't doing the same things that he was doing in September and October.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you're right. A lot of guys go out there and do play hurt because they feel it's their responsibility. I'm the guy. I'm the quarterback.
Yeah.
I am the leader of this team.
Sure.
And I have to be out there. And a lot of guys look at it that way. I mean, we talked about Baker Mayfield. You know,
right.
He hurt himself by saying, I'm the guy. I've got to be out there. I can't afford to sit. And then, made himself look bad because he didn't have the skills after he got hurt that he was showing before the injuries. And yeah, you could have that same problem with Kyler Murray. I'm coming back because I'm the guy, because these guys are looking at me to lead them. But I'm, if you look at it honestly, he's not physically able to perform.
Yeah, right. He's not able to do the same things that he usually does. So
right.
I want to get to some of the comments. Tony has an interesting one. He questioned Murray's maturity. Now he's questioning his mental toughness. And Tony, I think there's some truth to that. I think at least Murray has to prove to me that he still that he has the mental fortitude to succeed in the NFL. I think the question is still out there on that. And maybe the Cardinals thought that too, and that was why it took some time for them to get this contract signed. I don't know. Can't say if that was the reason why the contract maybe didn't come at the beginning of the offseason and it's coming now. But it's interesting that the Cardinals don't seem bought into him either. And maybe for good reason, but it's just tough when you're Kyler Murray and you've done what you've done and your team doesn't fully believe in you yet. I think that's hard on the young guy.
Yeah.
Atlanta Falcons Nation says, good afternoon. Good to see you guys.
Great to see you.
I find this comment ironic. Pantera, I think, is saying go Birds as in go Falcons, but we're talking Cardinals. We're talking Cardinals right now. So lots of bird teams in the NFL. I want to just get to a couple other things before we transition to another topic related to Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson also looking for a contract extension. And you mentioned, some of the things that your agent should be doing for you in these kinds of situations. And Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent, and it's very interesting what might happen there. The latest with Jackson and the Ravens is they're getting closer. So there's optimism that a deal will get done, and a deal will get done without hard feelings. That's what's so tough about this Murray situation. The deal got hard feelings. The deal got done, but there's a lot of hard feelings on really both sides. So,
John Harbaugh, Greg Roman, and Lamar Jackson have always had an outstanding relationship. They truly, and maybe that's the difference here, because you do know that the Ravens as an organization have completely bought into Lamar Jackson.
They have, yes.
There is no doubt that they have bought into Lamar Jackson. And now you have doubt that the Cardinals have truly bought into Kyler Murray because of all the controversy that has arisen over the last week over this contract situation.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind that the Ravens are, Jackson is our guy and that's it. That's the way it is.
Well, I'm still curious though what this contract will be for Jackson. How much guaranteed money will he get, and how many years? Do they believe that his style of play will continue to succeed? When Jackson turns 30 and 31, 32, when he's just a tiny bit slower, will he be as successful? Is that something the team is thinking about or worried about? I think those questions will be answered when this contract is.
Yeah, so do I.
So
be interesting to see. I mean, come on, you can't use Deshaun Jackson's contract as a model for what quarterbacks are going to get going forward, because that was just a ridiculous um, situation that the Cleveland Browns created. But, you know, this Kyler Murray contract might be a model for what you can expect out of Lamar Jackson, probably
Yeah.
with more guaranteed money. I would say you're probably going to end up between Kyler and Deshaun Watson as far as
Yeah.
guaranteed money, 5 years, you know, your usual bonuses, your usual incentives, and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how it does play out. But as I say, I think they're both going to be, both going to sit at the head of the table and be very happy with each other when it is worked out.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So that's another contract situation we're watching with Lamar Jackson, and then related, not contract wise, but quarterbacks, and if you're kind of thinking about social commentary in the NFL, I guess is the umbrella that this falls in under. The other similarity between Jackson and Murray, other than that they're young, exciting quarterbacks that run around and make big plays, they're both black. And Patrick Mahomes had a comment about being black and playing quarterback in the NFL. I believe he made these comments yesterday, and I'll read his quote from ESPN. Obviously, the black quarterback has had to battle to be in this position, and that we are to have this many guys in the league playing. Every day, we're proving that we should have been playing the whole time. We've got guys that can think just as well as they can use their athleticism. It's always weird when you see guys like Lamar, Kyler kind of get that on them when other guys don't. But at the same time, we're going out there to prove ourselves every day to show we can be some of the best quarterbacks in the league. So clearly, Patrick Mahomes is following the Kyler Murray stuff, and he's following Lamar Jackson stuff. And, it's interesting that he not only was he talking about, black quarterbacks in general, but he got specific and mentioned those two quarterbacks who are making headways on the field and now, kind of waiting for their, Lamar is still waiting for his big payday, and then Kyler got his big payday, but not 100% happy about it.
Yeah, well, this has always been a problem in the NFL. It took forever for them to for the NFL as a league to even give a black quarterback full control of the team. It's been a problem. Most black quarterbacks come into the league and teams want to move them to wide receiver, running back, tight end, and don't want them to play quarterback. And it has been an issue. It's kind of a extension, I think, of the overall issue that we're running into lately in the country, where there is a chasm between nationalities and races that hold, we're hoping was getting better as time went on. But I think it is getting better as far as NFL quarterbacks. I think there are still some people in media who question maybe black quarterbacks more, but I don't see too many people questioning Patrick Mahomes, to tell you the truth.
I just I can't speak really to whether the criticism from Murray this week or after his playoff game or whenever, or criticisms for Lamar Jackson. Although I think the draft process for Lamar Jackson, absolutely, there was some awful biases, takes that were biased against him coming out of the NFL, because they are coming out of college into the NFL, because they did exactly what you're talking about. They wanted to move him to wide receiver. A lot of the draft, not necessarily the coaches in the NFL, but the media. The media was all about, well, is he going to play quarterback? Is he going to play quarterback? Right. And clearly he can play quarterback in the NFL, won an MVP doing that. So are they Murray and Jackson currently facing, still biases and discrimination? I don't know. I don't think I can comment on that fully, but I liked Patrick Mahomes speaking up about it,
Yeah.
and it just makes you pause and I think when you're in the media, and you hear Patrick Mahomes talk about it, when you write an article about one of these quarterbacks, you're going to double make sure that, is this an honest evaluation? Do I have any bias in my work or my view of him? And if guys like Patrick Mahomes don't speak up, then you don't stop and think about that. So
Right.
I think it's important that Mahomes did that.
Yeah. It never hurts to stop and think. You're right.
Yeah.
So, and as recognized as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, he's the guy who can do that.
Right. He has the clout to be able to say more of what he thinks, as opposed to even, Jackson won an MVP. Murray has been successful, but we've got a lot of comments here that are criticizing at least Murray for coming out and being open with how he feels and thinks. He hasn't earned, I guess, that ability to do that with everybody. Well, goes to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. But he has shown he could be a quality quarterback in the league too. So, you're
higher on him than me, admittedly. You are, which is fine. It's just, I think you view him in higher regards than I do. To me, he still has something to prove to me that he can win, and
he has to prove to me that he can win closer to the end of the season when it really matters, when you're playing for playoff position.
Yeah.
He still does have to prove that he could step up and make plays like you've seen other quarterbacks do, late in the season, being, taking their team, kind of stepping up and taking their team into the playoffs as the natural leader. And every quarterback in this league is the leader of their team.
Right.
So you have to step up and play like the leader of that team. And Tony Wright's been making a lot of comments, talking about Kyler Murray's playoff game last year against the Rams. Well, for one thing, the Rams were damn good. But you played them well in your division games during the regular season, but you completely fell apart when it came to the playoffs. You got to realize that the playoffs are a step up. You got to step up your game in the playoffs. And I think, maybe the Cardinals learned that as a lesson last year, came away from that loss saying, it's kind of like Stanley Cup hockey, where you can't take that shot from the point and expect it to get through all those bodies and score, because everybody's willing to give up the body and dive in front of balls or dive in front of pucks. And all of a sudden you got to be willing to score the dirty goals. Well, in football, you got to be willing to step up your game too, and do more than what you showed in the regular season. It's just the way it is in the playoffs. Can he do that? That's kind of what we're looking at as far as late season and playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see what Murray and what the future has for Murray and the Cardinals. And, I back to my original point, I think they have to have a really good season to repair this relationship.
So do I.
Like 11 wins and a playoff win.
Right.
Because it's really bad right now. It's like a mess there in Arizona.
I'm going to bring up Tony Wright's last comment. He's been harping on Kyler Murray in the 157 yards. And I do agree. He needed to throw for a lot better yards, and he did have some wide receiver targets that the Cardinals have brought in. But I'll go back, I don't have it at the top of my head, but I'll go back in records. I'll go back on Pro Football Reference. I could probably find plenty of quarterbacks who played well during the season and completely tripped all over themselves in the playoffs. I mean, Kyler Murray is not the original quarterback that to have that rough playoff appearance. I
Sure.
can go through it. If we had the time here on the show, I could go through and do that for you. I'll give you plenty of quarterbacks who tripped all over themselves when it came time to appear in the postseason. Hell, Matthew Stafford was one of those with the Lions. The 2 times he appeared in the postseason with the Lions.
He never threw 3 interceptions, though.
No, but he threw for 5,000 yards one season and then looked terrible in his one playoff game. Just got completely ground into the dirt. Now he can't. You want to play, won Super Bowl last year, but as I say, I can go back and find performances that were just as bad as Kyler Murray's out of quarterbacks who went into the playoffs with very high expectations. So
I get your point.
It's one game, and as I say, it was his first playoff game. Let's see how he responds to it this year. If he can't do better at it this year, I'm more in your corner, Tony. But let's see it play out. Let's see how that playoff loss has affected Murray as far as how he performs on the field late in the season. Does he take? Can the Cardinals step up their game behind him late in the season this year, knowing what it takes?
I want to respond to a couple things. I think I agree with you, but I also agree with Tony. Like Kyler Murray, that was a bad game. That was a really bad.
Yeah, it was terrible. I agree.
Yeah, it was. It might have been the worst game of his career. It was bad, and they were playing a good team. They played a team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. But I mean, he made some mistakes that he just never should have made.
Yeah,
that throw from the end zone.
That was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
you're right. Exactly. Yes.
So
I get you there.
Not even the stats, like take the stats out of it, just that one play. It's like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Trying to pull off that play in your own end zone in a playoff game against a really great defense.
But again,
really bad decision.
That comes back to saying things that I can do against a team in the regular season, things I can't do against a team in the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah. I think that
you give him credit for actually trying to make a play, but it was a stupid play. It should never. That's one you can never try and make.
Right. That's my point.
You might get away with it in the regular season against a team like Jacksonville. You're not going to get away with it against a team like the Rams.
And he should have known that. He plays the Rams twice a year, and I think he beat the Rams once last year. So
yes, he did.
He should have known. He should have known better than to do that. And I think I want to move on, but I want to make one last comment that I just think us as fan base and media, we try to crown these guys too early. And, we crowned Joe Burrow real early, and it turned out that, yeah, Joe Burrow's as good as we thought he was as a rookie. Like Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback now. But we crowned Kyler Murray as he's going to be the next top 5 quarterback, and he's not. It doesn't mean that he won't be. I'm not saying that he won't be a top 5 quarterback, right, but we wanted to crown him as a franchise quarterback. He's one of the best in the league as a rookie.
Oh, he's definitely not one of the best in the league. Right. He's got a ways to go.
Right. And
he's got to prove he can win in the playoffs. You want to be one of the best in the league, you better win a playoff game. You better prove that you can perform in the playoffs.
I think he has a lot to prove. And that's I don't have a hot take to say that he's not going to do it. He's not going to prove it, but to me he still has
a lot to prove.
He has a lot to prove. That he's 15-8-1 before Halloween.
Right.
As a starting quarterback in the NFL. 7-15 November, December, January.
Yeah.
Exact opposite records. That has to turn around.
Yes, it does.
Even a top 10 quarterback. That's got to turn around. Let's get to the Falcons, talk a little about Atlanta. We do have some other comments here I wanted to get to. Brian says football is back. Yes, we're very happy about it. And we're going to
by the way, NFL.com is doing a, kind of a we're back type weekend where they have coverage of all 32 camps and fans are going to all the camps. And It's kind of a back together weekend is what they're calling it. So, everybody's celebrating the fact that we are full on in the training camp.
Yep. And this is our transition to the Falcons. Tony brought up if he's asking us if we saw Arthur Smith's press conference where he created some comedy gold with being asked a silly question by a reporter. I don't know if I didn't see the full interview, Tony. So we are going to talk about one response that Arthur Smith had. I'm not sure if that's.
I saw the response. I haven't seen the whole interview. Yeah.
So what is Tony referring to?
Well, basically, he's referring to the fact that Arthur Smith just doesn't want to buy. He's not going to buy into these. I forget the exact quote, and I can't find the exact quote. But let's see if I can find the quote here. But just, the media doesn't think much of them. And
it was about the expectations, because that's the quote.
Outside expectations, yeah. Okay. That's the one. That's the one we're all talking about. The one about the outside expectations being so disappointing. And, Arthur Smith's feeling like that's, it's funny to him. He's like, well, go ahead and read the quote. I can't.
The quote I was going to bring up, and again, I wasn't sure if this was what Tony was referring to or not, but Arthur Smith said to a question about outside expectations, go look and see what they thought of the iPhone coming out. Go back and look at old predictions if you want some comedy, a good comedy.
Yeah.
What were the expectations for the iPhone? I don't remember people thinking that it wasn't going to be a big. Did we say as a public this was silly, that we're not going to have computers?
Yeah, because Steve Jobs was still around, and everything Steve Jobs touched turned to gold. So I think everybody kind of.
So, well, I guess I'll start the discussion there. I don't really understand how.
I think he's just saying that predictions are often wrong.
Okay.
That's all he's trying to get to, is that your predictions and a lot of things that are said before the season, he's basically trying to emphasize that they're wrong. You can mine a lot of comedic gold going back and saying, well, this team was predicted to go to finish under 500. This team actually made the playoffs, or this, he's trying to emphasize the fact that, you can't predict before the season that a team is going to fall. And one of the problems that the Falcons have had is there's nobody in the media really thinks much of this Falcons team. I think I've seen a lot of predictions like 2-15, 3-16, not 2-50, 17 games.
3-14.
3-14.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot of predictions that don't give the Falcons any credit for being able to win more than 3 or 4 games. And I think that's what Arthur Smith is trying to address. Because he's a head coach, he has to. You cannot let your team go into the season, even going into the preseason, with the thought that, maybe, and they're never going to admit to it publicly, but have planted deep in their minds, well, maybe the media is right. Maybe we aren't that good. I don't know. He's not going to let his team go into that. He's going to fight it tooth and nail all the way. To Arthur Smith, this is a playoff team. And he wants his team to believe it's a playoff team. Because part of the game is mental. You got to believe that you're able to go out there and execute and do what you need to do. So he wants to make sure his team isn't paying attention to any of this before the season starts.
Sure. And I think he should do that. And he should tell his team privately that they are a playoff team.
Right.
But there's a difference between telling your team you're a playoff team and telling the media you're a playoff team. And admittedly, Arthur Smith didn't do that. He didn't say we're a playoff team.
No. But he's saying for these predictions, these expectations, they don't mean anything.
And that's true. That's
They
absolutely.
don't mean anything to me. They don't mean anything to my team.
Okay. Yeah, I
That's
think
essentially what he's saying.
Yeah.
Which you expect the coach to say. It's funny because
I agree with Brian here, though. It was a bad analogy.
It was a bad analogy. You're right. He was coming up with something off the top of his head, and he kind of missed as far as that was concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just trying to say, forget the expectations. Let's see how my team performs as we go into the season. That's all he's doing.
Well, Tony brings up that Frank Darby is looking good in camp. It would be huge for them if they got some wide receivers playing well.
Yes.
A former wide receiver of the Falcons made some headlines this week. Julio Jones signing with division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go play with Tom Brady down there. Kind of heartbreaking to see Julio Jones sign with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Out of all the teams he could have signed with, seeing him go to Tampa Bay to play with Tom Brady and be happy about it. Be so thrilled I get to play with Tom Brady. Well, yeah, but, Julio, you got to play with Matt Ryan for a lot of years. And, you did play with a quarterback who turned you into a Hall of Fame wide receiver, gave you, made you look like a Hall of Fame wide receiver. You got to show your talents with that quarterback because he was that good. So, they were. So no, this isn't like you're playing with a quality quarterback for the first time. Sure. This is, you're actually, I know everybody says greatest of all, Tom Brady, blah 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 blah, and that's why it's supposed to be so exciting to go in and play with him, and yeah, I got to touch the aura of Tom Brady for one season, and he layeth hands unto me and made me a better football player and a better person. So, we'll see what Julio can do playing there. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. I mean, how much is he going to play?
I don't think it's going to be much. Yeah, I don't have much faith that he's going to be, his former self. I think he's past his prime. He can't stay on the field, and I don't see him having much of an impact on that team, to be honest.
I mean, he's 33 years old, so he should be able to play productively. He's not going to have the speed that he once had. He should be able to play productively if he didn't have the injury that he has. What you have to worry about is that injury history.
Sure.
He's not.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's a bad signing by Tampa Bay. I just,
no, it's a good signing.
It's worth taking a chance on him. And they have so many wide receivers there that even without him, like, they're going to be able to move the ball and score with Tom Brady. So, and then you take a chance on him, and if you get close to the Julio Jones that he was a few years ago, then you really have struck gold. I just don't think that's very likely. I don't think it's very likely that Jones is close to being Pro Bowl level player again.
No, I don't think so either, because again, you got Jones who's going to have to, he can't go deep. Tony, he is going to get hit because he can't go deep anymore. He can't beat a defensive back down the field. He's the kind of guy, he's going to be, running shorter routes, and defensive backs are going to tee off on him. He is going to get hit. And that's the problem, is once he gets hit, he's out. That's all you can do with him. So I don't expect a lot of big things out of Julio Jones. I would like to see Julio Jones have a good season, but I'm a Julio Jones fan. But he's at a point in his career. He had problems staying healthy at the best times of his career.
Right. Yeah. 3 years ago, he was playing through injuries and still doing well, but he just can't seem to do that anymore. We're getting a lot of comments on Julio Jones. Thanks everybody for chiming in. 10 to 15 snaps a game is all Julio needs to have an impact, is what Pantera, I think, is saying. Tony Wright says that really Falcons fans have disappointed with him going to Tampa Bay. I'm summarizing what Tony said.
Right.
But it'll be real interesting to see him come back to Atlanta and the two matchups between the Falcons and Buccaneers this season. And This is a good one from Brian. Julio will be a red zone specialist for them. I don't want to say you're wrong, Brian, but Julio wasn't all that good scoring touchdowns in his prime. He's had one season of more than 6 touchdowns in a season once over the last 6 years. He just was never – he would get the Falcons down to the goal line, down, and somebody else would score. And
his specialty was getting – his specialty was getting that 50-yard pass down and getting big chunks of field position.
Maybe his role will change. It probably will, where he's not playing as many snaps in the middle of the field, and maybe he only plays near the goal line. Maybe that'll increase the likelihood of him scoring touchdowns. But, their goal line plays that they ran like 3 passes in a row to Julio. I can't say exactly what game or when it was, what year, but I remember situations where they just were trying to feed the ball to Julio Jones, Matt Ryan at the goal line, and it didn't work. So it's interesting that guy is going to turn into a red zone specialist.
And that's the thing, Brian. But now he has Tom Brady throwing to him. Well, he had Matt Ryan throwing to him before. And are you going to actually say that Matt Ryan wasn't able to get the ball to Julio Jones in situations that Tom Brady will now be able to do? No, not Ryan. Yeah, you're not going to call Ryan the greatest of all time, but this is a quarterback who's, thrown for a lot of yards, thrown for a lot of touchdowns. Has been one of the best quarterbacks of his era. So don't say that, Brady's going to turn him into something that Ryan wasn't able to utilize him for.
Pantera made the point that you made about a lot of Hall of Famers wanting to play with Tom Brady, try to win a championship. And I want to get to one other comment earlier from Brian, and now Tony brought it up too. Tampa Bay lost their center this week, Ryan Jensen, and it looks like he's going to be out for maybe the whole season.
He's going to be out for a long time. Yeah,
be out for a while. A significant amount of time is what's being reported right now. So we'll see how that impacts Tom Brady and that offense, their ability to throw it deep downfield out without proper blocking. Are they going to be able to do that? And will they be effective running the ball? All kinds of questions now that need to be answered when you lose.
Not only do you lose the blocking when you lose a center, you lose the guy who's calling your offensive, your line coverages. He's the guy who's calling out the blocking schemes as the quarterback is getting ready to take the snap. He's looking at the defensive line. Now you don't have that guy looking at the defensive line and calling out blocking schemes. So, that's a part of the job that a center does that not a lot of people really pay attention to. So you lose a lot when you lose a center, especially with one with the experience that he has. And it's going to be rough, to replace him. You just can't replace him with anybody. It's easy to have somebody move into the center position to be able to block. You can move.
We've lost Tom. Looks like he froze in a very interesting. Okay.
But I'm back. But the one thing you miss is if you're putting a center in there, you're putting a guard in there, you're not getting a guy who's experienced at calling out blocking schemes. So it's going to be interesting to see how they replace that as they go into the preseason.
Before we wrap up, I want to mention the one last thing we wanted to talk about, the new streaming package that the NFL is offering this season called NFL Plus.
Yeah.
I am super excited about this. So let's real quickly what it is. I mean, you're going to get live out-of-market preseason games with NFL Plus. You also have this is the kicker: live games, local and primetime games on your phone all season. That includes the playoffs. Playoff games on national TV and the Super Bowl will be available to watch on this new streaming package, NFL Plus. You also get game audio, home or away feeds for each game. And there's two different subscription packages. You can get NFL, all the things that I talked about just now with NFL Plus for $40 a year, or you can pony up to the NFL Plus Premium, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And you get game replays. You can have condensed game replays where the game is shown in about 40 minutes, or full game replays. They haven't mentioned yet if they're going to be commercials with those replays or not. In years past, there aren't.
Better not be. You're paying enough money. You better not be.
It didn't say. It didn't say if there were commercials or not. And you get the first three things plus the all games on demand for $80 a year.
Yeah.
So
plus the coaches film. Now, hopefully they've gone back to the way they used to do the coaches film, because last year they called it coaches film, but it wasn't coaches film.
Right.
It was not all 11.
Well, I thought we talked about this briefly last year. Game Pass really went down in quality the last couple of years.
It really did.
Especially last year, they had commercials for the game replays. I thought the app on like my smart TV, my Android TV would crash a lot. Some of the games that I watched, like it was edited poorly, so you saw fourth down before third down in one situation in a game I saw. So this is replacing Game Pass. Game Pass will not be available anymore. NFL Plus is now the big thing. And I talked to a couple people on Twitter. Yes, this will not, it does not look like you can watch NFL Plus on a TV this season.
Right.
You cannot stream it on a Chromecast, on a smart TV. The app will not be available. So I think that's disappointing for a lot of people. However, if you are somebody that wants to get rid of cable, or you don't have cable like me, and you just want
you don't have a working TV right now like me,
or don't have a working TV, you don't need to worry about watching, I guess, streaming the games on a TV if you don't have a TV. That's true. Then NFL Plus is like, it's made for you, because you can get all of any local game. Like you can watch the Falcons now on NFL Plus. They are not blacked out in Atlanta, in your area. You can watch any, if you live in Atlanta, you can watch any game that's on Fox or CBS every Saturday on NFL Plus.
Right.
You don't even need Paramount Plus anymore. I got Paramount Plus so I can watch the CBS games. Don't need Paramount Plus. Don't need cable. And this is really a groundbreaking decision to put these primetime games that ESPN paid millions and millions of dollars for. NBC has paid lots of money for Sunday Night Football. And then the local games on the other networks on Sundays, all in one package. I just think it's fantastic. I get the disappointment of not being able to watch it on TV, but
and it's $20 less than it was before. They've been charging $99 a season for the last couple of seasons.
Right.
So you're getting it for $20 less, and you're getting a lot. So I'm excited by it. I think it's going to be a great deal. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm curious.
It's a great way for me to be able to keep an eye on the Falcons, because I can watch Falcons games. I can see what they're doing. I can see things, pick up things that they're doing. I don't have to read game editions or read different websites to see what the Falcons did. I can actually watch what the Falcons did and make my own determinations about.
Are they going to be on? Well, are they on a lot in Chicago?
No, but I was able to watch them because of the
because of the Game Pass.
Because the Game Pass.
I'm sorry, the game replays, the on-demand games. Yes,
right. I would, with Game Pass, I'm able to watch them. I'm going to be able to watch preseason, and it's going to give me a lot more insight too. So it's a great tool for any football fan. It really is. It's exciting.
Yeah, and I think even if you're not we're into the game replays. We watch a lot of games on demand. Even if you're not into that, though, I mean, why would you not want to watch your CBS and Fox local games for $40 a season, $40 a year? And I guess if you watch Red Zone on Sundays, you can still just pay $40 for this package and watch Sunday night and Monday night games. Oh, and Thursday night. I didn't mention that. You don't want to. I know there was a big pushback when we were talking about Thursday night being moved to Amazon, and everybody said, we already have it. Why don't you? Well, now I don't have to get Amazon because I'm going to get NFL Plus for the other stuff, the game replays and Sunday night and Monday night football. Well, I get Thursday night now on NFL Plus. I don't have to sign up for Amazon.
Right. Exactly. You're getting it. So
I'm really excited about it. And I know we're out of time here, but I wanted to mention the NFL Plus streaming service. And I'm curious to hear from the local fans that you guys in Atlanta, is that something that will interest you to get around cable and still be able to watch the Falcons if you live in Atlanta? Because they'll be on. Every game will be on if you're in Atlanta. Every Falcons game it'll be on NFL Plus. So thanks for tuning in this Saturday. We'll be back next week with more training camp discussions with the Atlanta Falcons and all your major NFL news.
Yep. Should be a great week of training camp, and everybody have a great week. Talk to you soon.